time they will have rest of mind and want peace to reign is when they have destroyed Russia, when they have created everything, all the chaos they want, and brought Russia down. And for you to destroy Russia, there's no way you're not going to have a World War III, because Russia is the world's largest nuclear power, followed by the United States of America. And for you to destroy Russia, you have to engage with Russia in a nuclear tussle. And any nuclear war that happens in our world today is going to be World War III. That's why President Trump was yelling and telling Zelensky, you are playing with World War III. You are playing and toiling with World War III, because Russian nuclear warheads are already in position, ready to begin to fire. The moment they feel too threatened and too pushed to the wall, they will release them. That's why Donald Trump wants to stop the war, but the Europeans don't want to stop the war. And this guy you call Zelensky is a representation. That's why the moment that whole fiasco ended and the Zelensky was booted out of the White House, guess what happened? All of them called him and said, come home, sweet, lovely child. You have been such a worthy servant. You did everything we asked you to do. You poked his eyes. You hit him in the balls. All the things that were outside of the norm that we told you to do, you did it. Come into our warm embrace. And they embraced him and cheered. You will see all the meetings they're going to...
Guys, if you notice it, this is the first video I'm doing on this issue of Donald Trump and President Zelensky. Guys, are you aware that what happened between Zelensky and Trump, right? Trump was also indirectly trying to fight for the betterment of Africa. Please listen to me attentively before you watch the video I'm about to show you. I know you may ask, what has this got to do with Africa? Now listen to me attentively. Now, Europe are using President Zelensky. They were in good terms with Biden. But right now, everything they imported to the US, everything they stand for, Trump is fighting against it. Now they want Ukraine to go into full-fledged fight, full-fledged WAR with Russia, using Zelensky, and Trump don't want it. The reason why they want that to happen with Russia, to bring down Russia by all means, is because Russia has vowed that they are going to remove Africa, because Africa is the feeding bottle of this European country, especially France. Just like this have been last 2 years now, they removed 3 countries from France. You understand? Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and you understand what I'm saying? So they want to put down this thing. And President Trump is saying, I want peace. Guys, forget what you see in the media. I have done my findings. Is the video I want to show you now. You understand? Beyond this, please, before you watch this video, the first thing you have to do for me, please, because sometimes before I bring some video, I'll try to do my investigation, because I watched. Let me not say much. Just watch the video for yourself. Watch to the end. But please, before you watch this video, I beg you for one thing: let me like this video and please share it as much as you can, because this is not just something between the way we sit on the surface, Ukraine, Russia, and US. It concerns Africa. Europe want to use Ukraine to see if they can put down Russia, which is impossible. Impossible. Russia have the greatest nuclear power in the world, followed by the US. How possible is that? Let's stop. You understand? Watch the video today, but please make sure you share it.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. So I'm pretty sure you must have seen the fiasco that went down in the White House between Zelensky, President Donald J. Trump, and Vice President J.D. Vance. The whole world saw it. I saw it. You did. We all saw it, right? But as always, I want to bring you guys up to speed. Let me explain to you exactly where this all began. I think it was a week ago that Zelensky reportedly was in a private meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and Vice President J.D. Vance. And the discussion they had was about how America can come into some business partnership with Ukraine to extract some of the rare earth metals or rare earth elements that they have in their country. Rare earth is a very important element that you extract. You use it to make electronics equipment, use it to make batteries, use it to make glass, use it to make a lot of stuff. So many things. All these modern equipment you see today, even wind mills and stuff like that, you use rare earth. It's a very important mineral. And so America says, let us have a partnership with you so we can extract some of that. And that way we can get paid for all the over 300 billion US dollars that was spent into your country for this war, that was sent by the United States of America under the Democrat Party, under President Biden. And not just that, that partnership will also serve as a security guarantee to your nation, because now we have an interest in Ukraine, and then it gives us the right to protect Ukraine. When you have something to lose, you've got something to do. America is being ruled right now or led right now by a businessman. The whole world knows about it. And he loves to make deals. And this was one of those opportunities for Ukraine to make a deal with America for continuing to protect Ukraine. And Zelensky, according to Marco Rubio, said to them, okay, that's fine, we're going to do this with you, but I have to run it by the Congress in our country, by the parliament. The parliament has to hear this and then make a decision on it. It's not just me alone who will make it. Let me just run it by them. But then Zelensky turns around and goes to the media and tells the world that he rejected the deal, that he was thinking, that his own thinking is that America is promising him that that partnership to extract the mineral from his country is a security guarantee, but that if it's such a security guarantee, why can't they have boots on ground? Because the agreement they are trying to make him sign does not say that American boots, he is just like interested in having America put boots on ground. So he wants the security guarantee that American soldiers must constantly be in Ukraine. Those boots must be on ground to be fighting. That is what makes a good deal for Zelensky. That's what he was saying in the media. And he was saying also, listen to this. He was saying also that they're trying to make them pay for the money that America sent or spent during the Ukraine or in the Ukraine war. That as far as Zelensky is concerned, that the agreement he had with Biden is that all that money is grant, not loan. That all that money, about 350 billion US dollars, was supposed to be spent as grant. You know what grant is? Almost like what you're spending through USAID, an NGO giving grant. And all this taxpayer money that Biden and his administration dumped in Ukraine, which the Trump admin has found out to be about 350 billion, Zelensky openly said that his agreement with that administration is that it will be a grant and not a loan, so that they don't need to pay back, which is what Trump is trying to do, that you have to pay us back for the money. And Zelensky said, no, your predecessor gave us that money as just a grant, as Sarah in Nigeria, as a gift, 350 billion plus. That Ukraine doesn't have to pay back. That's why Zelensky refused to sign the deal. So Marco Rubio got angry and said, I'm listening to the news and hearing what this guy is saying, but that's not what happened in the meeting we had with him. He never ever brought that up. He only told us he was going to run it by the parliament or the Congress in his country. And now he's saying he rejected it and that we were being unfair to him. That's frustrating. And he said he was very angry with that, and that President Trump was frustrated by that. And that was why President Trump called him a dictator without elections, which was trending all over the media. And of course, CNN, which is owned by the same people who own Zelensky, came out against Trump and saying, why would he call Zelensky a dictator because he didn't have elections? After all, UK didn't have elections during World War II. And I was asking, how is it that the only reference you guys can make to support Ukraine not having elections in the so-called wartime is something that happened in World War II? Is this anywhere close to World War II, what is happening between Russia and Ukraine? As a matter of fact, Russia had elections during the same period that this war is going on, and even told Ukraine to go ahead and have elections. They refused to have elections because they have already turned Zelensky into something even worse than a dictator. That's why he came after the press. There is no free press in Ukraine. That's why they banned and banished all forms of political opposition in Ukraine. That's why they are conscripting their young men on the streets and throwing them to the war front to die. Every single time you go to Ukraine, most of their men are running out of the country. That's why he came after the Orthodox Church that has been the guys that everybody knows Ukraine for all these ages. This guy came after them and said they have ties to Russia, and he's closing them down, he's destroying them, he is messing with these guys. Orthodox churches in Ukraine, a major landmark in that country. And they said Trump was wrong to call him dictator. And when he now heard that Trump called him dictator, Zelensky went public and said that President Donald J. Trump was living in the disinformation space created by Russia. Now, the question is, this is Zelensky, and this is the President of the United States of America. We know you are a president, but there are presidents and there are presidents. All nations are not equal. You only have to be a brainless daft not to recognize the fact that the United States of America is the greatest nation on earth. It is not boasting. It is reality. It is the truth. And without this nation today, Ukraine would have been overrun in just a few days by Russia. And not just without America, without even the magnanimity and the humanity of President Putin. Because he always thinks about the people. They would have overrun Ukraine in a matter of days. And you are having the temerity and the audacity to go out in the public and speak against President Trump. And you know why he did that? Because most people around the world do not know that Zelensky is not Zelensky. Zelensky is just a name. The whole idea of Zelensky is a man who represents, who embodies everything that colonial Europe has become today. He embodies globalism. It's like globalism and colonial Europe morphed into one person. So whatever it is that these guys want to say to Trump, who is against them and opposed to them, they always say it through Zelensky. The way they oppose Trump in Europe, they have found a way now so that the individual prime ministers don't have to say things to Trump anymore. They just use Zelensky to say whatever they have to say. Because to them, as far as they're concerned, Zelensky is an expendable. So like I was saying, Zelensky was raised up by colonial Europe, by the West, to use him to fight their external wars. And one of those major wars is Russia. The next is now President Trump, that is opposed to all the wickedness that they stand for, which is to continue the war and not have a date for ending the war. These guys actually came out on record, and specifically the Danish prime minister came out, was on record about a week or so ago, and said that peace in Ukraine could actually be more dangerous than the ongoing war. The Danish prime minister said this. Look it up. Look it up. And that echoes the sentiment that most of them, if not all of them, in that place, in that Western Europe, actually hold on to. They want the war to continue. You know why I believe so? Okay, President Trump His crime is that he wants peace and he wants it now, by all means. But why are we here? How did we get to the point where 3 years down the line, there is still no peace between Russia and Ukraine? Two historical siblings. Let me tell you why. You can look everything I'm telling you up in the media. Please look it up. You have your phone, you have your laptop, tablet, whatever, just look it up. There was a peace deal that was supposed to be brokered in where? In Turkey. In the early days, this war would have been ended. It would have stopped very early in time. And guess what? Zelensky was going to go there, and Russia had already admitted and agreed to go. They were on their way to go and have peace because Putin said, look, we don't have to keep fighting. We are siblings. Belarusian president is saying to you, we don't have to fight. We are siblings. Don't let the West deceive you. We have to be brothers. And Putin was quick to agree to go for that peace deal. And I think even the Russian delegate had arrived in Turkey when suddenly they realized that Zelensky was not there. And guess what happened? It was Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister of the UK, that went to Ukraine. He didn't even call him. He went there physically and told Zelensky, don't go for any peace deal. Let's just fight. It's been admitted openly. He went and told him, don't go for any peace deal. And that peace deal went like that, and the war continued. There was another peace negotiation these people had several months after that one. Nobody invited Russia. Before, they now have the one that happened in Switzerland, where they invited world leaders to come to have a peace negotiation between Russia and Ukraine, and they refused to invite Russia. China and most of the countries in the global south refused to attend that peace summit in Switzerland because they said, how can we attend a peace summit when the man you're trying to make peace with is not invited? This is the charade we've been dealing with Europe, just to show you that they do not want any peace. They want the war to continue. And the only time they will have rest of mind and want peace to reign is when they have destroyed Russia, when they have created everything, all the chaos they want, and brought Russia down. And for you to destroy Russia, there's no way you're not going to have a World War III, because Russia is the world's largest nuclear power, followed by the United States of America. And for you to destroy Russia, you have to engage with Russia in a nuclear tussle. And any nuclear war that happens in our world today is going to be World War III. That's why President Trump was yelling and telling Zelensky, you are playing with World War III. You are playing and toiling with World War III, because Russian nuclear warheads are already in position, ready to begin to fire. The moment they feel too threatened and too pushed to the wall, they will release them. That's why Donald Trump wants to stop the war, but the Europeans don't want to stop the war. And this guy you call Zelensky is a representation. That's why the moment that whole fiasco ended and the Zelensky was booted out of the White House, guess what happened? All of them called him and said, come home, sweet, lovely child. You have been such a worthy servant. You did everything we asked you to do. You poked his eyes. You hit him in the balls. All the things that were outside of the norm that we told you to do, you did it. Come into our warm embrace. And they embraced him and cheered. You will see all the meetings they're going to be having from now on, Zelensky will be treated like a hero amongst them because he represents them. People are saying this was a setup by the White House. You guys are not thinking, you're not reasoning. This was a setup by them. They set it up. They made sure that Zelensky went there angry, fuming. He was never ready to go and sign any deal, any rare deal. He was still talking about the same security guarantee when he got there. What is security guarantee? Do you know when Caitlin Collins on CNN was talking to Rubio after that thing happened in the White House? She was saying that, Zelensky was still talking about the security guarantee, and Trump was saying that he doesn't agree with the security guarantee. And Rubio corrected this CNN shill and told her, no, that's not what the president said. The president said, I have to get the peace deal on the table first before you start talking about security guarantee. He didn't say that he's not open to it. He said he wants to do that. This is a matter of priority. Let's get this one out of the place first, and then we get the next one after it. Why are you asking for security guarantee when we haven't even gotten the peace deal? You are angry that we are talking to the person that you're fighting with. How do we enter and get a peace deal if we don't engage the other party in the peace negotiations? Who do you want to have peace with? If we isolate Russia, if we alienate Russia, if we ignore Russia, how then do we get the peace deal on the table? You guys have tried with your charade the whole 3 years. Nothing came out of it. That's why they went to Saudi Arabia. They didn't invite Zelensky. They did not invite the EU because they have never shown any sign that they are interested in a lasting peace in Ukraine. That's why Trump ignored them. So for those of you who are watching, this is where this is all coming from. Zelensky went there still insisting in his heart of hearts that all this money, 350 billion plus in dollars, that US government sent to Ukraine under Biden, that it was a grant, it was a gift that should not be paid, with his own mouth. In fact, I think I'm going to find the video and play so you can hear from him.
We begin right here in Washington, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio addressed the growing tensions between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. In a recent interview, Rubio said President Trump is rightfully upset with Zelensky after tensions between the two reached a boiling point over a proposed minerals deal. The Trump administration's contentious proposal requires Kyiv to pay Washington $500 million using revenues from its natural resources. With these profits, America would essentially own 50% of Ukraine's rare earth minerals, which it sees as compensation for its wartime aid to Ukraine. Now, President Trump's team has described the deal as a security guarantee to Ukraine. However, Zelensky says the draft agreement contains no security guarantees and would only exploit his country's valuable minerals.
My logic was the following. If you believe that the economic deal is a part of the security guarantees, then why can there not be your boots on the ground where you have your business interests? Isn't it logical? To me it seems logical. It seems to me so. I said that to the United States, but we did not discuss it yet as we did not receive their response.
Rejecting the deal, the Ukrainian leader said the Biden administration had provided him with grants and not a loan that he had to repay.
I had an agreement with Biden and the American Congress. I am grateful to the Congress, to both parties. And the support provided grants. A grant is not a loan. And we don't have to return the loan here. Maybe someone does not like it and thinks that it's unjust. Maybe. I don't know. But here is what this deal was about. It was grant. Therefore, it's not about the figure. We simply don't see it as a loan.
Meanwhile, Zelensky's public rejection has enraged members of the Trump administration. And during the interview, Secretary Rubio claims Zelensky is trying to hustle the United States in public while privately showing his willingness to discuss the matter with Kyiv's legislature.
I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelensky and the Vice President, and 3 of us discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we won't be in joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. He said, sure, we want to do this deal. The only thing is I need to run through my legislative process. I read 2 days later that Zelensky is out there saying, I rejected the deal. That's not what happened in that meeting.
With his own mouth, that it was a gift, cannot be paid, it's not a loan. How? So that's why Donald Trump was writing when he called Zelensky a dictator. He said, all this money we spent, that the US money has no guarantee. It was not guaranteed. There's nothing to no protection for the money that America put into this whole thing. But the Europeans, their own money is protected. That's why the man said, no, we should be the ones having partnership with you to extract this rare earth. Let it be something that we are getting back for all the money we are spending and for all the protections we are still going to be giving you afterwards. And the guy went there with that same stubbornness that he exuded with when he granted the interview and went to tell a lie in front of the media about what didn't happen in his meeting with Rubio and J.D. Vance. He came to White House in that same mood, propped by his colonial masters who own him wholeheartedly. And he came over there ready to explode at the slightest provocation. And that's exactly what happened. That's why one little statement from JD, the guy just exploded. That was where this whole thing came from. He was ready for that. And guess what? He eventually left the White House without signing that deal. That's what he came to the White House to sign. Europeans didn't want that to happen. The guys who are pushing for war with Russia didn't want that to happen. And eventually they had their way to show you that they were the ones who set President Trump up, not the other way around. They want Russia down because Russia has vowed that going forward, they are going to help African nations to break loose from the shackles of colonialism, which is how Europe, Western Europe today, is surviving, feeding off of, vampirizing African countries, African colonies, and stealing from them. That's why Russia helped 3 countries now, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And when Russia did that, France lost their minds. And the whole of Europe came together and said, if we don't stop this guy, we will lose the rest of our feeding bottles in Africa. All these African nations will steal from, we'll lose from them. You don't know Trump is helping you. Africa, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, and take charge of your own destiny. And so in closing, I'm going to tell you what my gut feelings are telling me. And it's pretty relatable. It's a no-brainer. Anybody who watched what happened yesterday knows that what I'm about to say is a no-brainer. It's a given. The truth of the matter is that Zelensky literally buried his own political career yesterday. I would have said that he basically drove a bunch of nails into the casket of his political career, but I think the casket was already sealed. So what happened before the whole world yesterday was him burying his own political career in a ritual style, more like a ritual way of saying, I am done with politics. Because, let's face it, if you can't make a deal, why are you there? America is the biggest financial partner to Ukraine till date, and you don't want to make a deal? What he came to the White House to do was to make a deal. President Trump wanted to sign that deal. And if there's no deal, there is no partnership, then you are useless. So I'm thinking that between now and the next 1, 2, 3 months max, 3 max, you won't be seeing any Zelensky as the president of Ukraine. No. I don't think. I mean, it will be the greatest miracle of our lifetime that in the next 3 months, that Zelensky is still there as the president of Ukraine. That would be a massive miracle. I mean, even listening to Lindsey Graham, many people don't know, but Senator Lindsey Graham is the most vocal supporter of Zelensky and Ukraine in the US government. Even he came out openly in the media and said clearly that the best thing right now is for Zelensky to either resign or send someone else, because they do not have any faith in him anymore to be a worthy negotiating partner. That says everything. It tells you all you need to know. That it's over. It's over. The relationship is dead. It's irreparable. What has happened is irreversible. It doesn't matter how many tweets or X posts that Zelensky decides to make after that. The thing is done. It's dead. It's over. And what it means also is that this war is going to begin to wind down officially at the end of the day. Yeah. Because America is not putting any boots on ground in Ukraine. America is not going to be sending more money. If anything, because of what just happened, I am just hearing this. And you need to pay attention to this one. I'm just hearing that very soon, Elon Musk's DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, will begin. In fact, they said, I think it was a breaking news I saw, that Musk has now been tasked with investigating how the monies that America sent to Ukraine were used. You know what that is, potentially? Remember all that accusation and all that speculation that that money was being used for some other things, that was money laundering. You've heard that many times, right? So Elon Musk and his Doge, DOGE, have now been asked to go ahead and investigate that. And if you are a Zelensky, if you are a part of the Biden administration, I think by now you will be very, very worried. And that's why wisdom was needed in the White House. That's why Zelensky was not acting normal. He wasn't doing the right thing. And that's how I know that rather than the White House, it was Zelensky's paymasters, his puppet masters, that basically set Donald Trump up, because what Zelensky was going to do was already in his heart. If you had watched the other parts of the video and all the things I've explained before now, you can see that it was all planned. They knew what they were going to achieve. They didn't want that deal to be signed. But you know, it is them who are going to lose the most. Because, you know, I don't see that there is anything that NATO and the EU can do for Ukraine or Zelensky without the United States of America. Remember what happened during Trump's first term in office, when Trump came and said, America is spending too much on you guys and you're spending this later. Why? That's not how it should be. You need to pay up. That was the language he used. You need to pay up. And he pulled back and allowed NATO to now begin to fund their own operations, which America has been carrying a large portion of. And what happened, it was immediately felt. And Macron was going all over the place. You can look this up in the media, going all over the place saying that NATO is hemorrhaging, that NATO has become brain dead. You can just Google NATO is brain dead. You will see that statement from Macron. He was all over the place saying it, just because America said pay up. NATO, EU can hardly function beyond their borders without the United States of America. They can't engage in anything. We haven't seen that happen historically in the last couple of years. In the last few years, I haven't seen where NATO on their own just engaged in a massive operation beyond their borders without the United States of America. So how is that going to happen now? What are they going to do in Ukraine against Russia? Especially now that US is rebuilding their ties with Russia, mending fences with Russia. The two most powerful nuclear powers in the world are getting together for the sake of peace, and Europe and then NATO want to go and fight against Russia without the help of America. How in the world is that going to make any sense to anyone? You will not see that happen, because they are very smart people. They know the meaning of suicide. They wouldn't want to commit suicide on their own soil. They would prefer that someone else does it for them, which is why they had to use Ukraine to fight their battles with Russia. They wouldn't want to use their own land and destroy it for that purpose. They could have engaged Russia before Biden came to power. They were waiting for Biden to come to power because, you know, like I keep saying, the Democrat Party of America, I believe, was set up by the colonial powers of Europe to use it to continue to attempt to retake America, recolonize America, and subdue the rest of the colonies around the world. And when Biden came, it didn't take anything before they declared war with Russia, because they knew that Biden was going to be giving them everything they wanted. And now it's become clear. That's why Zelensky said you heard me say it, the video is there, that all that money was a grant. No guarantee. Now he's looking for guarantee. He's looking for guarantee for America to go into partnership with him and extract the raw earth. But there was no guarantee to the money, 350 billion, that America was dumping into your country. Now, DOGE, that Elon Musk is heading is going to now investigate. Let's actually find out where all that money went to. You see, whichever way you look at it, it is the end of the road for Volodymyr Zelensky. Check him out. You're going to find him living somewhere, maybe UK, maybe Monaco, maybe in France. It's going to be in one of these European countries, and it's going to be far away from the East. I don't think he will be in Poland. He will go far. Watch, you'll see. It's over. You can make a deal. You can be a good partner, so you need to get out of the way. We put in so much money, no guarantee. But you're asking for guarantees, such huge guarantee for us to extract and make up for what has been spent, and also give us the impetus to continue to protect you. And you said no, and you walked out of the White House. In fact, thrown out of the White House without signing the deal. It's over. Take it from me. But it's okay. It's okay if I'm wrong at the end of the day. I mean, that's fine. But let's